Welcome back to the podcast. We are here with Ben Gioia from influencewithaheart.com. And do you have hangups about writing your book? Have you always wanted to write your book, but you always thought it was a dream that was just too far out of your grasp? Well, if so, then you're in exactly the right place. We are here with Ben, and he's going to talk about writing your book, making it easy, making it fun, making it a thing that is doable. So, Ben, glad to be talking to you.
Robert, thank you so much. Likewise, it's an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be back because at the beginning of my whole journey as an entrepreneur and doing my thing, you were one of the very first people to interview me on a show back when I was marketing with a heart, the name of my business. So I appreciate that. And I appreciate you for, giving me a voice back when I was just getting it together.
Yeah, we had the long-term relationship happening. So it has been a number of years since we've connected. So what have you been up to? What's on your mind? What's your passion? What is so urgent within the last few months for you?
Oh my goodness. So several things. One is, the telling everybody and their mother that writing a book is super easy. You can do it high quality. You can do it fast. And that's what I love helping people do. So I shout that from the mountaintops. Other urgency for me is traveling and getting myself out of one lovely home that I live in and getting myself into another lovely home so I can spend a bunch of time with my family this summer. And for me, being able to help people write books is a beautiful thing, because when people write books, they get to share their message, offer their transformation to the world, have their own transformational experience of writing the book, right? Make an impact with their message, tell their story, and, be able to be more of who they are, each day. And it's really cool to be in that space with them.
Well, and I like a lot of what you said there, because there's that whole idea of if you don't write it down, it's just going to go away. And you and I both know that in this whole writing a book process, there's this whole transformative, self-help aspect, right? You become a different person, and it's almost like going to a therapist for 2,000 hours just from writing a book, and you get your ideas really solidified. And then you kind of get known for certain things. And then it kind of comes back full circle in a feedback loop to kind of continue your process on. So you say to people, this whole book idea, it's easier than you think it could be. You've heard that it costs you $10,000 and takes you 10 years and it just destroys your whole life. And so you say it can be way easier. So someone comes to you and says, I've heard a lot of bad things, or I have all these excuses why I can't do it. So what do they usually tell you? What are the excuses?
Yeah, the biggest one is always time, or almost always time. And then, debunk that, because there's a lot of things you can do around, methodology and templates and setting a timer, literally, and super duper duper knowing your audience. And then you know what to put in the book. There's a bunch of ways, to navigate time. Another big one that comes up is, I have nothing to say. And that kind of bridges into, well, all these other people, they're also consultants like me. They've also already written books. And it's no, nobody can write the book that you can write, for two great reasons. One is because you are super unique. There's never been anyone like you. And we're talking on the entire progression of the universe. Never anyone like you, and never will be anyone like you again. Impossible. That's pretty freaking cool, right? So number one, that's contributing to your book. And number two is that you have, your special sauce, your skills, experience, expertise, yada, 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 right? And when you do what I teach and have conversations about your book to clarify what's going to go in the book, then you're writing your book to your audience, right? Ideally, you're having these conversations with your ideal clients, right? So you're writing your book to these people, right? And these people are getting the book that they most need to hear right now, and that you most need to write right now.
And that's cool, because you connect a lot of the dots that you hear. There's all these cliches that you hear about, being an expert, authority, author, and all these things. But what you've just said there connects a lot of the dots, because of course you would want to create the book that your future clients would love to read, and would then say, now that I've read this, now I need to go and hire this person directly. It seems like common sense, but it just hasn't always been connected in that way. And then there's a hesitation of well, hasn't this book already been written? Yeah, but like you said, very few books are just step-by-step structure. There's some uniqueness, there's some story, there's little anecdotes, there's little quotes and uniqueness. And And that comes into there's never been anything quite like you. So, and you said something in there about kind of having that two-way conversation, right? And it's really tempting, or it's really easy to overwhelm yourself and say, like, I have to write this textbook. And then you just end up writing a bunch of words that don't really help. But if you have the conversation of like, well, what would someone ask me in this case? And I would answer that. And then what their objection be there? And then they would say that. And what new problem would that open up? Now it's like, I don't even know what the hypothetical book is about, but I'm already excited thinking of in this kind of thought process. And so have you experienced some kind of a challenge with dealing with these clients, or is it always one challenge or another? Because I imagine that so like some people come to you and they say like, I don't even know where to begin, or I already have a bad attitude about it, and they need you to get them from point A to point B. But that experience, it's for sure rewarding, but it might not always be pleasant in the moment, right?
Yeah, you're not kidding. No, and I say that with so much love. So yeah, I mean, people do have an array of different things that they're showing up with, but you know, a lot of it will be around time, and then there's a lot of like, you know, emotional things that are kind of hard to identify that come around, like shame, self-worth, judgment, like, are they going to kick me out of the tribe? You know, like survival, you know, limbic brain level stuff, right? Like not logical, blah, blah, you know, things that come through, you know, culture, TV, history, family, religion, blah, blah, blah. Like there's all this like human junk, if you will, right? Or human richness, if you will, right? There's all that stuff in the mix. That's true. And writing a book, you know, AKA stepping into your power, taking your stand, like sharing your voice with the world, you know, is a terrifying thing for a lot of people. It has been terrifying in my life. Absolutely. Right. So for me, rather than trying to like, you know, psychologically unpack, right, like what you said, the 2 hours of therapy, right? It's like, why not have, you know, a tool or a small toolbox of tools that you can engage all the stuff with the same tool? Because, you know, you didn't ask for that emotion, you didn't ask for that itch on your nose, you didn't ask for that terrible feeling, right? You didn't ask for whatever it is, right? Like, I mean, just all this impersonal stuff's happening. I mean, maybe you ate a burrito at 3 a.m. that you shouldn't have, so maybe you asked for that, right? But the rest of the stuff is, you know, emotions, sensations, like it's all impersonal. It's just happening, you know, and then you stir the pot with a book and then it's happening more and it's uncomfortable and it's kind of, you know, so it's like, do you want to try to unpack all that? Right? And for me, I teach my people, relax your head, relax your face, and smile and go back to what you're doing. And if you have to do that 50 times in a row, like that is the thing. Essentially, relax into what's coming up, because the stuff is going to come up anyway. It's going to come up unbidden. Sometimes it's bidden. Either way, suddenly like you're overtaken and you know, you don't want to get involved in the story and, you know, what they said and, you know, all that crap, right? I mean, just the human stuff, it gets loud in there. Relax your head, relax your face and smile. And I like to say, you know, go back to your heart or go back to the task at hand. And again, if you have to do it 50 times in a row, do it 50 times in a row.
And so you've kind of touched on something that's kind of interesting here, and part of your uniqueness, right? And it's this idea that there's these projects that, and they might be writing a book or it might even be something else, but like there's these projects that, you know, you've been putting this off, or you know you want to do, or you should be doing this specific thing, or even just thinking about that client or that task. It kind of gives you the dreads, and it gives you the depression kind of feeling. And we need to, you said relax, what was it? Relax into it.
Yeah. Relax your head, relax your face, smile, go back to your heart, or relax your head, relax your face, smile, take a breath. But just
and basically
feel the mush.
And basically that you're saying that there's so much baggage that you already had before this book project, and now you're enlarging the baggage, but you still have a job to do, right? And you don't have 20 years to like go and figure this out and say, oh, well, I can't take any kind of action because I have to look up my emotional baggage. You're saying you run out of time if you do that. You need to charge ahead anyway, and don't ignore it, don't put it off, but find a way to use it and find a way to see if the project that you're doing, this book, can help you with it in the long run.
Yes. Beautifully said. Really beautifully said, Robert. Thank you. And I want to piggyback on something that's really, really important here. You know, our American culture especially is about like push through, push through. This is not about pushing through. Right? Like I really, 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 really want to say that, right? This is about relaxing into what comes up as the way. So rather than push through the thing, it's like, okay, here's the thing. Instead of like keeping my attention on it and getting involved in it and getting in the story and getting, you know, it's I'm letting go of attention to that, relax my head, relax my face, smile, come over here. Instead of like pushing through the thoughts that I don't want to have, like that just makes for more suffering, essentially. Right. So
Yeah.
exactly what you said. And for the ninth time, you know, don't push through. I mean, every once in a while, yes, drink that extra coffee, do your thing. I'm not advocating that, but you know, there's so much unhealthy, you know, push through, especially as entrepreneurs, especially as men, you know, especially as, and I'm not saying women aren't exempt from this, but there's so much of that enculturated, you know, masculine, like, tear it up, crush it, kill it, you know?
Right.
I mean, I know that works for some people sometimes, but it's not sustainable. It's not fun. And it's not what we, I think, says Ben, need in the world, right? And you don't have to do it that way because it's not fun, right? Wouldn't you rather be relaxing into your day than like pushing through it, right? Or into your book for that matter.
Yeah, I would be. So you're saying that there's these two extremes, right? Extreme number one is to be in total denial, total failure, not taking the action, procrastinating. And then extreme number two is the hustle, the grind, the charge ahead, even if it makes me miserable and suffer and hate myself. And there's some kind of a more nuanced way to navigate this problem that is in front of us. And so you help these people to get this book out that otherwise they would not have been able to, or they had all these reasons they couldn't do it, or hit all these roadblocks. And so what do you have to say as far as success stories? Do you have any one you want to brag about, or anything that like you are particularly proud of in this whole book creation endeavor?
Yeah, I mean, I honored and blessed and humbled that I have several, a couple of recent ones. One of my clients in my mastermind for 6 months, never really in business before, although she's an expert in her stuff. We were able to negotiate a 5-figure speaking gig for her, right? So I helped her out with that. And then another client of mine, and that was before the book was done. So we leveraged the unfinished book to help in that negotiation, right? And then another client recently, she wrote her book with me in my shorter course. And somebody at Google read her book without her knowing it. They contacted her. They're like, hey, come speak and we'll pay you. So that happened from one of my clients recently. And then my experience, my 2 big success stories, of which all of my stuff is based and what I teach, right? I only teach and offer what I do and know, right? 2016, somebody reached out to me. They're like, hey, you want to speak at Stanford? And I was like, of course I want to speak at Stanford, right? So secured the contract and I promised, I said, hey, and do you remember, Robert, do you remember James Malinchek?
Oh yeah, big teeth.
Yeah, I learned this, big smile, right? I learned this from Malinchek, right? I said to the event planner, hey, I'm going to show up with autographed copies of my brand new book for free for everybody in the audience and your staff, right? And she's like, oh my God, that's amazing. And we hang up the phone and I went, oh my God, I have to write that second book right now because the event was 6.5 weeks away from hanging up the phone.
Oh no, better be a short book then.
Right? So 22,500 words in 3 weeks, got it produced, got it autographed, showed up at the event. Success. Speaking company hired me for several more events, several more times at Stanford. Company in the audience hired me to come speak at their headquarters in Sydney, Australia the following year. And they sold tickets to be able to fund me to come because they didn't have it in their budget. That was pretty cool. My name was on a ticket.
Awesome.
Yeah, I've never had that before. And then while I was frantically writing the book in those 3 weeks, I put a digital cover up on LinkedIn of my forthcoming book and like, hey, I'm the forthcoming author of this book. Somebody finds me and they're like, hey, we're creating a mindfulness and empathy video game with MIT for a Fortune 100 company for 20,000 of their global employees. Do you want to write the curriculum? And I went, of course I want to write the curriculum. So 10 months of consulting with a Fortune 100 company, thanks to, at that point, my unfinished book.
That is so impressive.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Wow.
and you're kind of tapping into something that I don't really have words for, but it seems like there's like thing after thing here where I'm like, I don't really have a zinger to describe this, but then usually you do. And what you're kind of we're getting into here is, you and I both work with these expert type of people, right? People that want books, audiobooks, podcasts, whatever, like the media to kind of package their information, right? And you always come across that sales objection that's, well, how long until I break even on the sales of my book versus what I pay you? Which, like, I guess it's a legitimate question, but my answer, like my thinking is, it can be all over the place, right? And there's that saying, like, if someone offers you a seat on the rocket ship, don't ask which seat, just get on the rocket ship. And with this whole book thing and the speaking things, it's like you talk about yourself on LinkedIn, you appear on podcasts such as this one, and the book is mixed in there as like a tool in that whole mix, but you come across like this kind of bad attitude, like, well, I'm not doing anything, and I just want to have just the book on its own, and I hope the book will just make me super famous. And then people like you and me are like, well, the book is just one of the elements in all the chaos, right? That you need to have your book, but also get yourself out there and jump on these opportunities. And that sometimes getting this opportunity raises your profile enough to have this other opportunity. So having said all that, what would you say to someone that has kind of that more transactional, incorrect mindset of like, well, how long until my book makes me famous, or how long until I make all this money from my book? What do you say?
Yeah, so a couple of things, and thank you, Robert, for that question. All your questions and responses and reflections have really been brilliant today. I really am loving this conversation a lot. Yeah, so I say a couple of things. So the first one is like, how much is one high ticket client worth it to you, right? Is that enough to write your book right now, right? Like, just start with one client who will pay you whatever your bunch of money is in your life, in your world, right? Is that worth it? Probably yes, right? From everything, Robert, that you just said about like kind of the ascending ladder of this thing leads to this thing, this leads to this, leads to this, right? The book changes your perception. Like I say to everybody, I'll say it to you right now, listeners, right? If you're thinking about writing a book, then start right now calling yourself the forthcoming author of the book about such and such a topic, even if you don't have your title. Right? People will change their people's perception of you will change immediately. The conversations will be different. You will get into conversations that you couldn't otherwise, because you can reach out to people on the premise of, hey, I'm writing a book about such and such a topic. Can we have a chat? Right? So start there. Okay. And then number two, Robert, going for zingers here, is, if, and I'm just going to do this for an easy example, because it's not just about money, right? It's about the impact that we can make in the world and make life better for everyone. The money is a byproduct of that for me. And yes, I want a lot of it because I want to monetize the hell out of my mission, right? I want the freedom. I want the flexibility. I want it all. And I need to rest after helping, right? God damn it, right? Like, I'm an introvert. I need rest. Get away from me, right? So, but for my example, right? If you want to make $100,000 with books, you could sell 20,000 books. Let's say if the royalty is about $6, which is kind of an Amazon, some average where in their royalty, let's say like that, okay? 20,000 books takes a ton of time, money, and energy to make that happen. And people skim, people scan, people don't read books, people abandon books, blah, 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 right? So for me, how do you make $100,000? How many books do you have to sell? 0, right? Develop relationships with 1 to 10 people who can get you to those $100,000 much faster than selling those 20,000 books. With strategic partners that can help you make that bigger impact with your message, right? Like when I got that gig with that Fortune 100 company, I had 452 people on my email list. 452 unengaged, probably, people on my email list. And yet I was able to get my teachings and my message into the hands of 20,000 people, right? So that stuff, that's why it's worth it to write your book.
Because of the relationships.
Because of the relationships, and the relationships will bring you to that $100,000 much faster. And the, ripply multiplied, amplified impact is so much higher than just trying to sell a bunch of books.
I love it. Well, what a positive message. And the pieces connect here. We were talking about the book writing and getting your message out there, and the speaking, and the self-help, and the productivity aspect, and the relationship aspect. It all kind of fits together as far as what you're doing. So if someone says, man, this Ben guy, he has all the right answers, he has a lot going on, and I think he might be able to help me as far as my own book goals and what I have going on. How does someone know if they're an ideal fit for you, and what's the website? Where do they go?
Yeah, thank you. So the easiest way is for us to have just a quick chat, right? 15-minute chat, influencewiththeheart.com/chat. And just so you know, I help write books that position you as a unique expert, help you get clients and strategic partners before you're published, and all the publishing, positioning, back-end monetizing stuff. So I'm not about the book sales, right? I'm about the relationships through the book, and using the book as an epic tool for your business versus just like, hey, I read the book.
Amazing.
So
using it in these smart ways. Like, I love some of these things that you've been throwing out here of like getting some sales before the book is already out there, or these things about going on LinkedIn ahead of time, even before you're a published author, just doing these things to get the PR machine going, because it won't happen overnight. It's all these steps to do ahead of time. So this is just a taste of some of the strategy that you can bring to this, or say, you can just easily do this one technique and then get yourself on all these extra stages, or talk to these 10 or 12 people that maybe can land you this client. So, I mean, these are some amazing ideas here, Ben.
Yeah, thank you very much, Robert. And the other thing, if now is not the time for 15 minutes of chat with me, at influencewiththeheart.com/chat, I do have a great event, a 2-day publishing deep dive, where you get a custom publishing roadmap. So check that out at publishpositionandprofit.com, publishpositionandprofit.com. It's a 2-day event, the online, the hours are very gentle, right? So it's not going to take up your whole life, and you will have amazing clarity wherever you are with your book. If you have an idea, a manuscript, anything in between, and, so not just the writing, but getting clear on the publishing, getting clear on the monetizing, because there's all sorts of ways to publish today, which is great in many ways, but there's also some best practices and some really important things that people need to know so they can make the right choices with their book and for their message.
I love it. And to get it in that 2-day time frame, that way it's not something you keep dragging out. You actually get it done, you actually learn it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's a really low investment for a really high value program. It's really, really something.
And it is worth checking out, looking at the webpage, even if you say, like, I'm kind of on the fence, or I'm not 100% sure. Just be a curious person. Look at the webpage. It takes you 2 seconds, and maybe you might see one thing on the webpage there. It says, you know what, that has convinced me. I'm going to join it. I'm going to do it. And that URL is, one more time, Ben?
publishpositionandprofit.com.
publishpositionandprofit.com. We will see you there. And we will also see you at influencewiththeheart.com/chat for that one-on-one chat with Ben. Making a book is possible. You can do it. You just need to believe in yourself and have someone who believes in you too. So time's a wasting. You don't have unlimited time on this planet. You need to get to some of these goals quickly, but also don't make yourself miserable in the process. So get it done. Go ahead, do it right now. We will see you at influencewiththeheart.com. And thank you, Ben, for showing up today.
Thank you so much, Robert. It's always a pleasure, and I appreciate your brain.